gummytc, God's Union Marriage Ministry YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about something everybody needs to be aware of, and that's roles and responsibilities in your home.
So, what's for dinner?
Black-eyed peas and cornbread.
Who's cooking?
You. I shall assist. I will mix the cornbread. Done.
Okay, so
Roles and responsibilities.
exactly. So today we want you to have a conversation with your future spouse, or if you have not had this conversation and maybe you're bumping heads about roles and responsibilities in your own household, maybe this is a conversation that you need to have about those roles and responsibilities in your own household or before you get married to your significant other. We're not going to tell you how to do those roles and responsibilities in your house. You need to tell me something. What?
Your lipstick looks great on you. Yeah.
Does it? Or are you being sarcastic?
No. Hot like fire.
Okay.
That's my role, and that was my responsibility. Feel me? Now, as you were saying, dear.
I was saying that you need to have this discussion. Now you got me all flustered. I don't even know what I'm supposed to say. So you need to have this conversation or these types of conversations in your household. I would prefer it before you get married. However, again, if you're bumping heads, this might be a conversation that you need to discuss or have with your spouse. So we're not going to tell you how to divvy up those roles and responsibilities in your own household, because every household is going to look different. You're not going to be like the Joneses down the street or your cousin Aunt May or whoever. You're not going to be like that household. Your household is going to be according to how you and your spouse or your future spouse, how you guys have set up those roles and responsibilities. And so for me and Elle, just to give you an example, and again, your household is not going to look like Elle and I, but to give you some idea, when we got married, I already had a son, and so he was 5, I think, when we got married, or 4.
Yes, 5 when we actually got married, yes.
Okay. And so he was already starting to do some chores around the house. And so a lot of the responsibility for keeping up his room, keeping up his clothes, his area, putting away his things, washing his own clothes, cleaning his own bathroom, we were already starting to show him those things because he was old enough to learn. So again, we had a lot of help because we already had a child. For those of you who are going into a relationship or a marriage and there are no children, you and your spouse or future spouse are going to have to figure out, how are we going to divvy up the roles? Who's going to do what in the household? And so that may just be a conversation that you and your significant other need to have. And so to give you some idea of what me and Elle do, we wash our clothes together. Sometimes Elle will wash, I will fold. Sometimes he helps me cook in the kitchen. I'm the one who does the bulk of the cooking, and that's only because I love cooking. Correct. So it's not necessarily because I feel like it's something I should do, but I love cooking. I've always loved cooking, and I love experimenting with new recipes. So I do the bulk of the cooking in the household. However, my son and husband do some of the cooking as well, and they assist me a lot of times. They do breakfast a lot of times, yes. Breakfast they have on lock.
Pancakes!
Yes. And Elle cooked a wonderful baked chicken dinner the other week. So there are times that my husband and my son do assist me in the kitchen.
Other week.
And so there are some other things, like we decide Elle cleans our bathroom, and I try to straighten up our room. So there are some things that we have shared responsibilities in, and then there are just some things that we just take on. If we see that something needs doing, we just do it. Right. As far as for our outside chores, Elle pays someone to do the yard because we live on a hill, so it's really hard for him to get the lawnmower.
Traction.
Yeah.
Traction is not your friend.
Exactly.
We call it Henry's on the hill.
Yes.
There's a reason, and those of you that know us, you understand.
Yeah. And not only that, my husband also works on Saturdays, which is, again, we're not the typical household. Most of you may have a household where you work Monday through Friday, and both of you are off Saturday and Sunday, and a lot of things are done on Saturday, like grocery shopping and outside household chores, and so those responsibilities are done on Saturdays, whereas my husband is at work on Saturdays all day. So I will do the grocery shopping
all
usually.
Day.
Yeah, usually when he's at work. And as far as washing our cars, we usually pay someone to detail our cars. Sometimes I'll go through a quick car wash, or Ella go through a car wash. A lot of times I'll just go do a vacuum if I feel like my car needs to be vacuumed out. So again, this is just a matter of how you're going to work together as a couple and figure out what are those roles and responsibilities. But we do want to leave you with just a couple of tips. And first of all, we just want to talk to you about expectations. Most of us come into a relationship with expectations, and so we want to know, what are your expectations in the relationship? And then, are those expectations realistic? Like, are you really expecting your husband or your wife, let's say for our example, would I be expecting Elle to wash my car every Saturday morning, do the yard, garden, and all of that, knowing that he has to work on Saturdays? That's not a realistic expectation. Now, also, on top of, are your expectations realistic, but are they unspoken? When me and Elle first got married, I think we had a lot of unspoken expectations. For example, one of Elle's unspoken expectation was the toothpaste tube. He expected me to squeeze from the bottom of the tube, but instead I usually squeeze from the middle or wherever. I do try to accommodate him, but my hands are not equipped to squeeze from the bottom and hold the tube, and I feel like that's just too much for me to think about. First of all, when I'm brushing my teeth in the morning, I'm not even awake most of the time, so it's just a matter of me getting toothpaste on the toothbrush. So but that is something that we actually went to a conference and we heard about unspoken expectations, and that was one of the unspoken expectations. And I had unspoken expectations as well, because I did expect him to do the yard because my father did it, and we're getting to that point too as well. So did you want to add anything to that?
I like the toilet tissue to roll over the top.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Over the top. The thing about expectations is just that you have a desire to meet an end, and when that end is not met, you feel a certain kind of way. But if you don't relay the information over to your betrothed or your spouse, you're getting more and more flustered, aggravated, irritated, more and more upset, but you can't get a resolution because you haven't expressed these things to your spouse or betrothed. So if you have these discussions early, there will be a lot less frustration. And we're making things seem lighthearted because we're talking about small things, but this can be about the way you raise the children, the way we go to church, when we go to church. What church are we going to?
Exactly.
What faith are we? Are we Lutheran, Methodist, Baptist, Church of God in Christ, Church of Christ? Whatever you do, following Jesus, whatever route you choose to go, these things need to be discussed, because you have people from two different households becoming one.
Exactly.
And I wasn't raised like Zena. Zena wasn't raised like Elle. These are what we mean by talking about expectations. Eliminate a lot of frustration by having these talks early, and it's never too late to have them.
Yes, exactly. So the first thing is looking at your expectations, and then secondly, what about your backgrounds? So again, we talked a lot about, Elle said he wasn't raised like I was, and I talked about my dad getting up on Saturday mornings, cutting the yard, washing the cars. So we want to talk about where you've come from. What things did you see in your household that you're expecting to happen in your new household? Right. So a lot of things that we've seen growing up, I saw my dad in the kitchen cooking, and that's what made me want to be a cook and want to do the cooking for my family, even though I could have very well taking that, looking at my dad in the kitchen and expecting Elle to be the one in the kitchen, because there were a lot of things that I did project on him, as far as wanting him to wash my car instead of pay someone to do it, or wanting him to do the yard instead of pay someone to do it. But again, my dad was military, so he was off by 4 every day, and he was home on weekends. Another thing my dad didn't do was go to church. So I didn't marry a man that didn't go to church. So you have to really think about those the background that you've come from, and those expectations that you're putting on to your spouse or your future spouse, because you've seen it in your household. And I think it's important that you talk about the way you were raised. Talk about what things you saw. Maybe a man might have seen his mother cleaning a lot, or sweeping every day, or mopping every day, maybe scrubbing the floors, and that's something that he expects his wife to do. And so I think it's important that you talk about the way you were raised and how that's going to reflect in your new household.
Along with backgrounds, you also learn who your spouse is, or where their foundation began.
Exactly.
And where they're going to grow into. One of the crazy backgrounds you realize is that some people come from single parent homes,
Yes.
dual parent homes, raised by aunts and uncles,
Yes.
raised by grandparents. So there will be different mentalities that your spouse or betrothed has that may be unfamiliar to you. And there may be some that'll be right on point with you that makes a transition into being married great.
Yeah.
But you have to think about it. My grandparents slept in separate beds when I came on the scene. So here I am at the age of 4 and 5, living with my grandparents. But grandmama slept in the pink room, granddaddy slept in the white room, paint on the wall. And it was kind of never a question. That's how it was, because that's what I saw. It makes you have to sit back and reflect and talk. Where did your parents sleep? You know, so when my dad remarried, I had to relearn a lot of things at the age of 11. There was a 6-year gap where there was no mom and dad, and then now there was a mom and dad. So sit down, have these genuine conversations with your loved one,
Yes.
your spouse or betrothed, and ask. It doesn't hurt to ask, because you need to know who you are about to marry or who you are married to.
Exactly. I think it's important. And then finding some type of compromise. You know, let's say that there is something that you are expecting from your spouse and that spouse can't fulfill that need or that expectation. Then maybe coming to a compromise about how are we going to come to some type of resolution that is profitable for both of us or that meets both of our needs. And I think that's the biggest key right there, is that we don't do enough communication about even the smallest things.
Yeah.
And I think those small things can add up over time. You know, if you're constantly looking at someone who doesn't press the toothpaste from the end, and then there are so many other issues that are going on, eventually that toothpaste tube is going to get on your nerves when that's not even the real problem. So I think that you really just need to have conversations with your significant other or your spouse about everything, especially about their background and what are those roles and responsibilities going to look like in your household. And I hope that you will take this, have a conversation with your spouse or significant other, and learn some things about them along the way, and then maybe try to figure out what can we do differently if you're already married and you need to have some resolution, or if you're not married, what can we do in the future that is going to make our life better? It's not going to say you're never going to be without conflict, because we're always going to have conflict, but the more we talk about it, the more we can resolve them.
Conflict is good. Remember that. It helps you grow. But remember, this is also in relation to our previous video we did called Deal Breakers for our unmarried people.
Exactly.
Hey, what are your deal breakers? Tie it on in together.
Yeah.
We thank you all again for visiting with us again on Sunday. I'm Eldridge Henry. This is my beautiful wife, Zena Henry. We're signing out. Thank you again. Hashtag gummytc. Thanks for watching God's Union Marriage Ministry YouTube channel once again. Love you guys. Be blessed.
Yes. Bye-bye.
See you. Always got to get sugar.
Now you got red lips.
Ta-da! Tip of my head. You barely got the tip of my head now.
Okay, so I need to zoom out.
No, it's fine. It's there. It's there.
No, because if it's barely on here, it's going to cut it off.
No, it ain't. You can see the shadow, baby. The shadowed line is our spot.
Okay.
Now we can see. Yeah,
Let's see what?
You see those little white characters right here on the screen?
Mm-hmm.
There's a gray line right there. That's the outline of what records. And the other 2 inches is not going to be recorded.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
But sometimes on here, it cuts off more down on those 2 inches. Like when I look at it, like sometimes it.
But we've learned in the last couple of weeks that that is our guideline. As long as that is in the screen, that's what we recorded.
Excuse
me. Yes, dear. What are you laughing at?
Nothing.
Pull my jacket down the back, please.
Sit up, too.
I am sitting up.
No, I mean, I'm saying sit up.
I am sitting up.
Huh?
You want me to sit up like this?
No, just sit up. I'm just saying sit up. Let me see your eyebrows. Need some makeup.
Okay.
You don't need any makeup. You sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are we doing the breathing? the head. Head. What's the head? I think I'm gonna break my neck.
Character, baby.
Get into character.
Getting focused.
Getting focused. Getting focused.
You ready?
Watermelon, 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 watermelon. I don't know what that was just now.
Swallow that slime in your mouth. You good?
No, I was like, wow, 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 wow.
Mm-hmm. Hi, welcome again to gummytc. And the phone rings.
Okay.
So we need to get that?
No, I'm just gonna let it. Hopefully they won't call back until we finish recording.
Phone ringing. Imagine that. We're gonna ignore it.
Might not be able to hear it though, but I don't know.
You can.